What's up, Coding One? Mr. Agnos here. Today I'm going to introduce you guys to the rectangle on Khan Academy's programming environment. Okay, first off, I always like to work with a black background. I just think that looks cooler. So you guys will learn more about colors in future videos. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and set my background to black. Alright, and before I actually dive into a rectangle, I'm going to go ahead and make an ellipse. And if you recall from the previous video, an ellipse has 4 parameters: the x and y position of the center, a width, and a height. So I want my ellipse to be somewhere in the upper left-hand corner. So maybe I'll put the center at, I don't know, 70. I'll make it 50 pixels wide and 30 pixels tall. So this one's going to be pretty small. There it is in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, the reason I wanted to show you the ellipse first is because rectangle is pretty similar in terms of the parameters it has. So the way we get a rectangle to appear on the screen is we type rect. We don't have to type the entire word rectangle like we do with the ellipse. We just type rect. Go ahead and put our parentheses. And you see it has the same parameters as the ellipse, and then it has this 5th parameter right here, radius. That parameter is optional. So I'm going to get back to that in a second. You don't need it, but you may want to. So really, most of the time you'll have an x and a y, a width, and a height. There is one major difference between the rect and ellipse, though. So I'm going to put this maybe right in the middle of my screen. So I'll say 200, 200. I'll give it a width of 100 and a height of 50. I'm not going to use the optional 5th parameter yet. All right, so I said I was going to put it right in the middle of my screen, and you can see that the x position is 200 and the y position is 200. So then the question you might be having is, well, why isn't it in the middle of my screen? The big difference between the ellipse and the rect, other than their actual shapes, is that the ellipse uses the center of the ellipse as its location. So right there, so now it looks like a scary red eyeball. Right there is the center of the ellipse. However, the rectangle does not. The rectangle uses the upper left-hand corner right there to determine its location. So that is why my rectangle is not appearing in the center of the screen. Now, at first, you might think that's kind of weird, but really, you get used to it pretty quickly. And I will show you a way to change that if you like. Okay, so let's I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So let's just do a few things here with the rectangle. I think I showed you guys number scrubbing in the last video, so I can click on the x coordinate. I get this little box that pops up, and I can move it left or right. I can click on the y coordinate, and I can move it up or down. The width, I can make the width wider. Notice how it gets wider. It gets wider. The left-hand side of the rectangle here doesn't move. The right-hand side gets wider. All right, so I can make it wider. I can make it taller. If I want a perfect square, I would go ahead and make the width and the height the exact same, just like with our ellipse if we want a perfect circle. Okay, so that is a rect. Pretty straightforward. It does have one extra feature. It has an optional 5th parameter. And I want you to think about maybe your cell phone in this situation. I have an iPhone here. You guys can see that. And notice that it is a rectangle, but it has rounded corners. So this 5th parameter allows you to put rounded corners on your rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and put another comma. And I'm going to start at 0. Nothing happened because it's a 0. But watch what happens as I number scrub this number and it gets bigger. There I am at 8. There I am at 21. There I am at 40. And there I am at 60. So you notice, and I could keep going, but I don't think anything really happens at this point, not that I can notice. So really from 0, which would be a normal rectangle with sharp corners, up until about maybe 50 or 60, is sort of your range for rounding your corners. So if you want it to look more like a cell phone, that looks pretty good right there. If you want it to look like a hash brown, like you might order from McDonald's for breakfast, maybe 60 is the way to go. So that optional fifth parameter allows you to round those corners. You can also go into negative numbers and you get this weird kind of effect, like this. It kind of like reverses and starts growing in the opposite direction. Some kids like using this just kind of as a cool design, so I just wanted to show you that it was there. Okay, so I'll leave my corners rounded a bit. Maybe I'll put it, oh, look at that. If I flip the width into the negatives, I get that kind of weird shape. One of the best ways to learn about these shapes is just to start playing with them like I'm doing right now, and you'll discover, hey, maybe I do want this shape for in some situation. It looks kind of like the beginnings of a tube or a tunnel to me. All right. A rectangle has one more thing you can do with it. I'm going to go ahead and erase all this stuff. I'm going to put a fresh rectangle on my screen. I'll put it at 100, 200. I'll make it 200 wide and 100 tall. All right, so remember I told you that the X and Y position of the rectangle are based on the upper left-hand corner right there. There is a way to change that. You can make it so that you use the center of the rectangle as its location. Sometimes I think of it as its address. And you need another line of code to do that, and it has to be before your rectangle command. So I'm going to go before my rectangle command. I like to give myself some space, and I'm going to type rect, and then capital M. Rect mode is the command. As we get more into more of the code, you'll see this type of writing where words are sort of separated by a capital letter like that with no space in between. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a parentheses here. And notice it says mode in capital letters. Well, these are all the different modes. We have corner, corner, center, or radius. The default is corner. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you right here. I don't know what all of these mean. I either use corner or center. I haven't tried typing in any of the other ones. So if I want the center of the rectangle to be the address, the location, I'm going to put a little red dot here just so we see what happens. So if I want this to be the address of the rectangle, I'm going to go ahead and type in center, and it's all caps, close parentheses, semicolon. And do you see how, I guess I don't need this one right here. Do you see how our dot moved to the center of the rectangle? So it's really up to you. I don't care which method you use. When I learned to program on this environment, in this programming environment, I always learned it with the upper left-hand corner, and so now it seems weird to me to have it be the center. But if you're a beginner, maybe you want it to be the center. Again, it really doesn't matter. If you do want it to be the center, though, you have to have this extra line of code. Okay. I'm trying to find there I am. Okay, so that was a brief introduction to the rectangle. It has 4 parameters, X and Y coordinate, which are based on the upper left-hand corner. It has a width, it has a height, and then it has that optional 5th parameter that rounds the corners so you can make it maybe like a cell phone. You can use rect mode if you don't want the upper left-hand corner to be the address, if you will, the XY coordinate. You can use rect mode center and make it the middle of the rectangle. That is up to you. All right, hit me up in the comments if you have questions. Thanks so much, guys.